ETL, extract, transform and load data. In this section we will load large datasets on movies and ratings into the database using the MySQL load command. What is the purpose of ETL? As we saw in Chapter 1, database applications use data from various data sources. In order to insert this data into our target database, 3 stages are required. Extracting. In the first step, the data is copied from the data source, i.e. extracted. In our case, the data already exists in a downloaded file. Transforming. Typically, the data source does not have exactly the same structure as the target database. Therefore, we need to make adjustments to the data structure and content, i.e. make a transformation of the data. Loading. Once the data is in the correct format, it can be inserted into the target database, i.e. loaded. Powerful tools can be necessary for large amounts of data. This process of extracting, transforming and loading data is called ETL for short and is illustrated here. In our project, we will perform the ETL process using MySQL's load statement. In the following steps then, we will load the data in the movie CSV and rating CSV files into the database server. Prepare the connection for loading local files. First, we load the movies from movie CSV into the movies table. For this, we need to prepare the workbench to allow the database server to load the local file, so you can use the files saved on your system. By default, this is not the case. This is because loading data can be a security vulnerability, so we have to turn it on explicitly. First, we prepare the database client. 1. Close all connections to the database server. 2. In the MySQL Workbench welcome screen, right-click on the connection you use to load the data, for example, the root connection. This opens the database connection context menu. Select Edit Connection. 3. The Manage Server Connection dialog opens. Click on the Advanced tab in the Connection tab. 4. Under Others, add a new line and enter the parameter text opt local infile equals 1, as shown here. Make sure you write this parameter without any white space between the characters, or it will not work. This ensures that the connection is allowed to load a local file into the database server. 5. You don't need to push a Save or Apply button. The changes are stored immediately, so you can just click Close now. Prepare the database server for loading local files. Now the database client is ready. We'll next prepare the database server for loading local files. 1. Open the database connection to the server, making sure to use a user account that has administrator rights. 2. Execute the following statement in the SQL editor. The server is now also ready for loading files. Load movie data. Next, we will copy movie CSV to the database server. 1. Open MySQL Workbench and connect to the database server. 2. Open the MySQL statement in code example 8 into the MySQL Workbench. 3. Replace path to movie CSV with your own actual path to movie CSV. 4. Execute the statement. This code should have imported the first file into the database server. Let's look at the result. 5. Select all movies in the movies table with a select statement. You should then see the result as shown here. The movies have been loaded into the table. However, you will also see a warning in the action output window. Apparently, some movie IDs, primary keys, were duplicated. In the case of duplicates, only the first record is loaded. Therefore, in our case, we can ignore the warning. The primary key constraint has ensured that no duplicates are loaded into the table. How does the load command work in MySQL? So far, all SQL statements have been standard SQL. However, SQL is missing a command to load files into the database. The load statement from MySQL is not part of the SQL standard, but it's a proprietary NoSQL extension that MySQL provides out of the box. NoSQL simply means not only SQL, which is a category of extensions in database technology that go beyond SQL. MySQL is not the only SQL database product incorporating NoSQL functionalities to close gaps and to adjust to the needs of its users. The load statement loads character-separated values, CSV, text files into the database. Load only works with CSV, which is another data format like JSON, as discussed in Chapter 3. Let's go through that example in details. In code example 8, the first line says that we want to load a local infile found at the path specified. For Windows, note that backslashes must be replaced by forward slashes because the backward slash is a so-called escape character. On Mac and Linux, file paths natively use forward slashes to delimit folders. We then name the table into which the file is to be loaded. In the third line, we let MySQL know that the data file uses quotation marks around the data values. CSV files can use any character to separate the values, hence the name character separated values. So we also need to tell MySQL which character our particular data uses. This file encloses data values with quotation marks and uses a tabulator as the separator between data values, which is the standard. On the fourth line, we tell MySQL which character we will use to escape the controlling functionality of the special characters. This line is telling MySQL to expect data values to use the backslash character to know when a special character is part of the data value rather than delimiting it. This way, MySQL can read the entire data value enclosed in quotation marks, including the escaped quotation marks, because they are marked by the escape character. Because the backward slash is a special character too, we need to escape it as well, hence the double backward slashes. All in all then, this code is telling MySQL how the data in the file is formatted such that it can tell when one data field ends and another begins. Here, a field is to a CSV file what a column is to a table. It's a named position for data values to access the structure within the data records. Finally, the last line says that the first row in the data file should be ignored because it contains the column headers, and so is not data to load. The load statement can be used to perform certain simple transformations. We will now look at how we can use load to transform data to fit the target table.